Holmes,
Yes, Watson.
do you remember the theft of a diamond called the Star Triona?
Yes, I remember reading about it. The Star of Triona, bought at auction in London for £500,000 by the Duke of Hapful, and then stolen 2 weeks later from Hapfel Hall.
Yes. Well, I've received a letter from the investigating officer, Inspector Wilson, asking your advice.
You've received a letter asking for my advice.
He didn't feel confident enough to ask you in person.
Well, tell me why.
Everyone thinks it's an open and shut case.
Well, from what I've read in the newspaper, I tend to agree with them.
Yes, a bit cliche, though, the butler being the accused.
It lacks originality, that's true, but it is inevitable that at some point a butler somewhere will commit a crime.
Yes.
Anyway, wasn't he the former butler?
Yes, he'd been dismissed from Hapfel Hall the year before for alcoholism.
Well, I thought so. Yes, and what was that name again?
Hargreaves.
Hargreaves, yes. Well, caught red-handed, as I recall.
Almost. He was found with a gold bracelet, which was kept with the diamond. The Star of Triona was kept in a secret cavity behind the portrait of the 4th Duke of Hapfel in the Spanish drawing room in Hapfel Hall.
Yes.
I wonder how Hargreaves found out about the secret hideaway.
Well, a combination of backstairs gossip, keen observation, I suspect. So all he needed was to wait for the right moment to enter Hapfel Hall, and then search through all of the secret hideaways that he knew about.
You could be right. The inspector says... Yeah. He worked out there for more than 30 years, so he should know his way around.
Yes, he had the motive, he had the means, he had the opportunity, Watson.
Yes.
Yes.
An open and shut case.
But wait, weren't the police acting on an anonymous tip-off when they arrested him?
I believe so.
I did wonder, Watson, about that.
Why?
The diamond is still missing, is it not? Whoever tipped off the police might have it.
Perhaps it was Jeremiah Magpie.
Oh, yes, the elusive Jeremiah Magpie, who Hargreaves met in a local pub one night and supposedly was the cause for all his woes.
Sounds like a made-up name, if you ask me.
Most certainly, Watson. Not a very convincing name.
Well, the inspector mentions him in the letter.
Oh.
Says the newspapers weren't told the whole truth about him.
Oh, in what way?
Well, as you know, Hargreaves says he met his magpie chap one night in the local pub. And during the conversation, he asked him about the 4th Duke's portrait and in the Spanish drawing room. Then Magpie is supposed to have used the information Hargreaves gave him to find the secret hideaway.
Yes.
Well, it didn't happen in quite that way. Magpie asked Hargreaves about Snuffy in the Angela room. Snuffy being the family name for the 4th Duke, and Angela's room being the family name for the Spanish drawing room.
That's odd.
Yes, the inspector didn't know what to make of that, so he kept it quiet. Don't want to muddy the waters, that sort of thing.
Huh. I see. I fear that this new revelation is the most damning piece of evidence against Hargreaves, Watson.
How so?
Only someone closely associated with the family at Hapfel Hall would know about Snuffy and Angela's rooms and their designations. If this magpie chap was intimate enough to know, then he would have no need to consult Hargreaves.
Oh yes, I see what you mean.
And a stranger would have no idea who Snuffy was or who Angela were, so therefore, Come on, Watson.
Jeremiah Magpie never existed.
Just a belated attempt to shift the blame. Ha!
Well, Holmes, the evidence is overwhelming, but Inspector Wilson is worried.
Why?
Well, he thinks Hargreaves might be telling the truth.
Huh. Inspector Wilson is a good policeman, Watson. All right. What other light can we cast upon this affair?
He says he asked around if there had been any unusual people or unusual events in the area.
Good. Were there any?
Well, let's see here.
Read the letter, Watson. Tell me.
There was only one unusual person, holidaymaker, called the Marcus Marchfield, and one unusual event, discovery of a portable shaving kit in the woods surrounding Hepfell Hall.
A portable shaving kit.
The gamekeeper. Yes, the gamekeeper found it in the woods shortly after the diamond was stolen. He's not sure how long it had been there because the thick vegetation at this time of year makes it difficult to move about.
All right. So how did he find it in the first place then?
Doesn't say. But what is that? Is it significant?
No, I was just wondering if someone employed at Hatfield Hall had stolen the diamond, and the secret hideaway could have been discovered in much the same accidental way.
I see. So you think one of the employees did it and framed Hargreaves?
No.
Oh, for heaven's sake, Holmes.
This seems unlikely. If someone else had known about the secret hideaway, the gold bracelet would have been stolen before now, yes?
Oh yeah, what about the portable shaving kit?
Interesting but not enlightening, Watson. All right, what can you tell me about this Marcus Marchfield?
Lots. The moody Mr. Marchfield seems to have made quite an impression.
Moody Mr. Marchfield, how extraordinary.
Yes. Let's see here. He arrived in the village on Tenbury the day before the auction in London and rented a quarter of the field from a farmer by the name of Handley.
Oh, where is Tenbury?
Oh, about 4 miles from Hatfell Hall.
I see. All right, go on.
Okay.
Go on.
Marchfield pitched a tent and stayed for a week. Told the farmer he was a writer needing to get away from the foggy smoke of London.
Oh, a Londoner.
Yes. The farmer remembers him having rather reddish eyes and a pale complexion.
Poor fellow.
Marchfield was a man of regular habits. And every afternoon, evening, he'd cycle 2 miles on a penny farthing from his tent on the farm to the place called Dawson's Point, local landmark by the edge of Hatfield Wood, the wood that surrounded Hatfield Hall. He would take 5 minutes rest there and then cycle back to his tent on the farm.
Did he ever go to Hatfield Hall?
No. No, never went near the place. Seems to have spent all the time seated on a cane chair in front of his tent writing.
That's
Yes.
disappointing, isn't it?
Well, it was his farmer's wife, Miss Handley, who called him Moody Mr. Marchfield. According to her, his mood changed more often than the weather. Sometimes he would be quite friendly, and other times he avoided her. On one occasion, he deliberately ignored her, refused to turn around and speak.
It's extraordinary.
Yeah. The artistic temperament can be so unpredictable.
Artistic temperament, really. You think so, Watson?
Oh, it was a writer, Holmes. Do you think it was something else?
He sounds unwell to me. Although, look, I must confess this. I am not an expert on well people.
Perhaps. Though cooking certainly didn't agree with him. Apparently, he and the girl serving behind the counter in the village bakery
Mm-hmm.
said that most of the food she served was incredible. Oh, inedible.
Incredible or inedible?
Inedible. The writing is atrocious.
So Mrs. Handley was cooking for him.
Yes, she took 2 cooked meals every day to his tent.
Wait, he didn't dine with the Handleys?
No, only the once. Never set foot in the farmhouse again after that.
But he found sustenance at a local bakery?
Yes, he went there quite regularly. He told the girl that most of the meals prepared by Mrs. Hanley ended up in the back of a hedge.
Well, he should have complained.
Inspector Wilson says Mrs. Hanley is not the type who entertains complaints.
No?
No. More used to herding swine. Oh, if you know what I mean.
Yes. I wonder, was it something he was suffering from?
Hard to say. Wouldn't want to reach any conclusions without a proper examination.
Yes, of course, Doctor. What a poor fellow. I do hope he's all right.
Well, Inspector Wilson said he looked well enough when he spoke to him.
The inspector spoke to him. When?
Oh, 2 days ago. He took the train to London and questioned him at his lodgings. He even conducted a brief search and found the novel he was writing and a small notebook containing notes about conversations with people he met during his vacation.
I see. Anything else?
Hey, he intends using the local dialect in some future novel.
I don't know what it could be. Was there anything further?
No, he didn't find anything else except...
What? There. What?
Marchfield isn't a struggling writer.
What is he?
He's a civil servant.
A Bohemian! Oh, I can just see it now. Oh, him seated outside his tent, suffering indigestion for his art.
Oh, come now, Holmes. One mustn't mock the afflicted.
Oh, he wasn't that unwell, Watson. He was capable of cycling 12 miles every day and had a hearty enough appetite, yes?
Or your sympathy for him seems to have waned slightly.
I don't know which is worse, Watson. Having been a civil servant or his strange desire to be a writer.
Can't blame the chap for leading a double life.
But I can blame him for the life that he chooses to lead, Watson. Which is worse? I wonder, a pedantic weaver of red tape or a pretentious scribbler of fiction? I think the latter, but only by the merest quill's breadth.
Aren't you forgetting something, Holmes?
No, I don't think so, Watson.
Aren't you forgetting that I write about our investigations in the Strand?
Oh. All right. Perhaps, my dear fellow, this is something completely different. Since you don't write stories, no, you write the scientific analysis of facts. There.
Yes, of course.
Well, there's nothing artistic about that, Watson, surely.
Quite.
Yes.
Tell me, Holmes, when was the last time you read a copy of The Strand?
I must confess, Watson, it's been quite some time. The pressure of work, you know. I hope you don't mind, but one does become engrossed in the finer details of detection. Anyway, mister, why do you ask?
Well, if you had read a recent edition, you would find that it isn't all scientific analysis.
Well, what do you mean?
There is an occasional creative flourish.
An occasional creative flourish?
Yes, Holmes, creative flourish.
Well, what are you telling me now, Watson?
I'm just saying that I sometimes embellish the long gray list of facts with the occasional dash of color.
Watson.
Don't look at me like that, Holmes. There's nothing wrong with artistic license.
Oh, if there only were such a thing, then we could revoke all of the artists' licenses and let common sense prevail.
Nonsense. One has to use artistic license occasionally, Holmes. It enhances the reading experience.
All right. What sort of artistic license, Watson?
Okay, well, do you remember Mary Welby? The pantry maid at Hepton Hall.
Yes, the case of the missing morsel, was it?
Mm-hmm.
I remember questioning her about the use of raspberry in pastry-based confectionery, and her answers, I recall, were particularly concise,
Yes, well, in the Strand she may have flashed her blue eyes provocatively and brushed away a long lock of auburn hair from the side of her face, while giving her concise replies.
Mary Welby.
Yes.
She had auburn hair.
You didn't notice, did you?
I must confess I did not.
Not long after that edition of The Strand was published, her engagement to the footman was announced. Apparently, he decided it was best not to hang around any longer.
Engaged?
I'm afraid so, old chap.
I'm sure she'll make an excellent homemaker.
Yes, of course. I wonder if Inspector will wait much longer.
What's that, Watson? Who? Which inspector?
I'm not sure.
If it's Inspector Wilson, we must write to that inspector immediately and tell him that the most damning piece of evidence is coming from Hargreaves' very own lips, Watson.
The elusive Jeremiah Magpie's intimate knowledge of Snuffy and Angela, you mean?
Yes, such a giveaway. All right, tell the inspector that Hargreaves might sound convincing, but his mind has become muddled by alcohol, yes.
You mean... You mean the only time he met Jeremiah Magpie was when he was seeing double in the local pub?
Yes, when he was drunk. Double.
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 Double toil and trouble.
You're taking gibberish, Holmes.
Hey, Watson, you've done it again. Do you hear what you've just said? You solved this case. Brilliant. Brilliant, Watson.
You would have to say that right after I'd accused you of talking gibberish, Holmes. You wouldn't mind repeating it at some later date, would you? After I'd complimented you on your brilliant deductive powers, perhaps?
Never fear, old friend. I'm sure there'll be many more occasions when your incisive mind will prove decisive.
Good. I'm relieved to hear that, but if you don't mind me asking, how have I solved the case?
Get your pen ready, Watson. It was all Jeremiah Magpie, of course.
Okay. Are you saying there really was a Jeremiah Magpie?
I'm almost saying that, Watson. Hargreaves did not meet Jeremiah Magpie in a local pub, no. He met Gemini Magpie.
Gemini?
Twins, Watson.
There were two magpies?
No. There were two Marchfields. And it was one of them who disguised himself as Jeremiah Magpie.
I see.
Oh, and of course, magpies collect sparkly objects.
I think.
Put those two facts together, Watson. You get Jeremiah Magpie. Gemini Magpie. Jeremiah Magpie. Identical twins collecting sparkly objects.
The Star of Triona, you mean?
Indeed.
But Holmes, how can you be certain there were two Marchfields?
Oh, I'm almost as certain as that I am. One of them was also deaf.
Deaf?
Yes, one of them became ill during childhood or something, I suspect, and the other helped him to learn how to lip read. That's how they became so proficient together.
Okay, you've lost me, Holmes.
What?
Lost me.
What?
How can you possibly know all of that?
Watson, look at the evidence, right? It's as plain as the nose on your face. Yes, here we are.
Well, a moment ago, my plain nose thought that Hargreaves was the culprit.
That's what the Marchfields want you to think. They are cunning devils, Watson.
Holmes, are you sure you know what happened?
Of course I'm sure.
Alright, then tell me everything step by step.
I'd be delighted to enlighten you, my old friend.
Good. Oh, but before you begin, I'll need
All
to
right.
check that I have enough paper. Okay.
I certainly hope so.
I'll need to make some more notes. I am to reply to Inspector Wilson's letter.
Let's begin at the beginning then. The Marchfield twins read about the forthcoming sale of the Star of Triona at auction in London and hit upon the cunning idea of using lip reading to find out where the diamond has been hidden. They would then spy upon the new owner and by reading his lips, discover the location of the Star of Triona.
Is that all? Well, it sounds too simple, Holmes.
Well, the best plans usually are, Watson. Picture the scene. The moody Mr. Marchfield pitches tent at a farm near Hapfell Hall, one day before the auction in London. He arrives the day before in order to familiarize himself with his new surroundings. 3 times each day, as regular as clockwork, he rides his penny-farthing bicycle 2 miles to Dawson's Point, where he and his twin brother switch places. One of them hides in Hapfell Wood with a pair of binoculars, while the other stays in the tent. They each take turns watching Hapfell Hall from the wood, hoping that someone in the garden there will mention the diamond and its hiding place.
Okay, makes sense so far. But why did they keep switching places all the time?
Well, neither of them wanted to be stuck in the middle of an overgrown wood. Nothing to eat or to drink for weeks.
Oh, yes.
Imagine that.
Well, what about the portable shaving kit found in the woods? Did that have anything to do with it?
Imagine for a moment that you are the moody Mr. Marchfield. You rise in the morning bright and early. You wash, shave, and dress, and then cycle. You cycle and spend your entire time on the back of this cycle until you arrive at Dawson's Point. You rest for 5 minutes and then cycle again on the back of your cycle for another 2 miles back to the tent. When you return after all that cycling, you are invigorated, exhilarated, and unshaven.
No. No, that wouldn't look right.
Indeed not, Watson. They both needed to shave in order to maintain the pretense. When the week was over and it was time for them to go, one of them simply forgot to take the portable shaving kit with him. And what a week that was. Of all the things that could go wrong, Watson, and there were many, many things that could go wrong, the one thing that did go wrong was completely unexpected.
What was that?
Instead of the Duke or Duchess saying that the Star of Triona was hidden behind the portrait of the 4th Duke of Hapfell in the Spanish drawing room, whoever spoke simply said it was behind Snuffy and Angela's room.
Of course.
Can you imagine the Marchfield brothers' frustration? So near and yet so far. Their cunning plan had worked, and yet they were no nearer finding the diamond than when they'd started. So they went back to London, of course, and brooded over their dilemma.
How to find Snuffy, you mean?
No, that was not what troubled them, Watson. You see, they never really took their little venture seriously. No, it was a good idea, of course, to lip-read the Duke and Duchess's conversation, but they never really believed that that plan would work, Watson. That's why they were so careless about concealing their true identity.
Yes, Inspector Wilson found Marcus Marchfield easily enough.
Indeed. So imagine this, Watson. You plan to steal £500,000 worth of diamonds.
Okay.
Let it be known who you are, where you live. No,
Right.
they never really believed in their plan, so they stumbled upon this shocking revelation when their plan actually worked, that they had succeeded in discovering the whereabouts of the Star of Triona, albeit in coded form, of course, and now they were caught on the horns of a dilemma. The success of finding a diamond brought with it the threat of capture. What should they do, Watson? What should they do? Could Hargreaves be put to some sort of use? Since they found out about him when the Marchfields could first listen and see that the local pub nearby during their vacation was a good spot to find information.
And that's how they knew about Hargreaves.
Yes. Such a disreputable character as an alcoholic would be shunned by society. The only place they could have learned about him was indeed at a public house, a pub.
Yes.
The Marchfield, who could hear, returned to the village of Tenbury. disguised as this absurd Jeremiah Magpie, to buy Hargreaves a few extra rounds and ask a few discreet questions. Hargreaves would know about Snuffy in Angela's room, and the hapless Hargreaves could also be used to divert any suspicion away from that moody Mr. Marchfield.
Hey, they deliberately planned to plant something on him.
Yes, Watson. There was bound to be something other than the diamond in the secret hideaway, which could be used to incriminate Hargreaves.
Bounder.
Quite.
Oh, that reminds me, the same small notebook which the inspector found. Was that significant?
Well, the small notebook contained the local dialect, a logbook of sorts of significant events, and each twin needed to know what the other had been doing while pretending to be that struggling writer. So
I see. Wasn't there a rival bidder for the diamond?
I believe there was. There were rumors in the press before the auction suggesting that the two front runners, so to speak, were the Duke of Hathville and Peter Montford, the shipping magnate.
I wonder how the Marchfields knew that the Duke of Hathville would be the successful bidder.
Well, they didn't, but I'll wager that another moody Mr. Marchfield pitched it quite nearby to Peter Montford's residence the day before the auction. They'd been tenting and going camping all this while, quietly disappearing afterwards, yes?
Extraordinary.
The inspector might want to look into that, indeed.
Yes, I think that's everything, Holmes.
Good. And remember to tell the inspector the reason why the moody Mr. Marchfield appeared so moody was because the twin, who was deaf, was finding the lip reading difficult.
Why was that?
Well, his eyes were sore, Watson. He and his brother were spending hours looking through binoculars. As a result, they both have reddish eyes.
Yes, I remember.
He was finding it difficult to lip read, so he avoided doing it whenever possible.
And that explains his moodiness.
Yes? Except for the occasion when he refused to talk to Mrs. Handley, the farmer's wife. That was different.
I don't understand.
Well, she said that he refused to turn to talk to her. Turn to talk. He couldn't hear her. He could only see her, and when he saw her, he didn't know she was speaking to him, so he never even knew that she was there.
Yes.
By the way, Mrs. Handley's culinary skills are about to be exonerated as well. There's nothing wrong with her cooking, except there was only enough food for one person, not two, which explains the Marchfields' visits to that village bakery in the first place.
Well, that's the mystery solved. Hargreaves will be pleased.
Yes, indeed, no doubt he'll want to celebrate.
Yes, I say, Holmes, how does an alcoholic celebrate?
Good question.
I don't suppose the Marchfields will feel like celebrating.
No.
I feel sorry for them. Or, at least, I feel sorry for the one who went deaf.
Watson, they chose the crooked path and must suffer the consequences. Anyway, serves them right for being bohemians!
What's wrong with wanting to be an artist?
What's wrong with wanting to be an artist? Bohemians don't want to be artists. They want to pose as artists. To pose or not to pose? That is the question.
Very droll, I'm sure.
How come, Watson? I'm sure that in time I will come to appreciate your artistic flourishes in the Strand.
Will you?